Tell you what, I need this escape right now into the chess world. I've just been looking after my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old. I've got 2 sons. My wife was out, right? And I am knackered. Like, looking after kids has got to be the hardest thing in the world, right? Anyway, that piece aside, we're going to jump into some chess here. I've kind of been following the chess on and off. So I finally found the stream. It is on YouTube. So you can go to the Tech Mahindra channel. I've watched it there. Some of the outtakes from yesterday, day one, are just hilarious, or the day before, because they didn't quite get the production quality right. They were cutting to people who were rehearsing and stuff like that. I'll have to show you some clips on another video. Didn't have time today. Anyway, we're jumping into this game. It's Magnus Carlsen with with black, playing against Levon Aronian with white. Clash of Titans. Let's check this one out. So Levon, he kicks off with pawn d4. Clock times on the left, plus the eval bar. Now we get knight f6 from Magnus, c4, g6, and now if you go knight c3, which is the main move, then I don't know what Magnus would have played. I'm drawing a move here, which is the Grunfeld move, or maybe he'd have gone bishop g7, invited a mainline King's Indian, don't know, but Levon went knight f3. So Magnus can now go bishop g7 and there's no pawn to e4 to worry about, setting up the big centre. Sorry, you can maybe hear some crying in the background. My wife's with him right now. Anyway, g3 played, so preparing to fianchetto. Now we get b6 from Magnus. Now I do not know what this opening is called. It's just a kind of double fianchetto, I guess a kind of King's Indian thing from Magnus. Both players now castle, knight c3, and Magnus plays the top move here of knight e4. It looks kind of weird to me, you know, moving the same piece twice in the opening. You're taught not to do that. You're taught to develop your pieces, maybe break at this pawn center at some point with some kind of move. But okay, this does trade a pair of pieces and open up the scope of this bishop. So bishop recaptures, and now bishop e3 from Levon. It's a strange looking move, but we'll see the point in a moment. Because after d6 from Magnus, preparing c5, also giving his knight a square, we now get queen d2, and it prepares to exchange off these dark squared bishops. Sorry, just lifting this mic up a bit. So Magnus, he goes knight to d7. Bishop h6, preparing to exchange, weaken these squares around the king. Now we get knight f6 from Magnus. The immediate c5, also possible there by the way. Now rook fd1 and c5 breaking at the centre. And you don't want to capture here as white because b captures, you know, generally you capture towards the centre if given the choice. Not always, but as a rule of thumb. And black's got a nice pawn chain here, good control of d4 and the open b file to work with. I was about to say in combination with the bishop, but those are coming off. Anyway, so Levon doesn't capture. He goes rook ac1, very standard developing move. You know, these are likely to move at some point, then you're behind this pawn. And now Magnus, he doesn't make the exchange immediately. If you do this right away, the timing is just wrong because then you activate this knight really quickly. Say these bishops come off, well the c6 square could be a bit tender. It's just not the most precise way to do things basically. As ever with chess, you know, it's about timing. It's very, very subtle, especially at this top level. So queen c7 from Magnus connects his rooks, very logical. We get pawn b3 and rook fd8 continuing some developing moves. Now Levon finally exchanged those bishops. King recaptures, and here he plays an excellent move which Magnus had underestimated. So pawn to d5, closing the centre. Now why is this quite dangerous suddenly for black? Well, this is a backwards pawn. So that's going to be hard to deal with because if you ever go e6, well then we take pawn recaptures. This one's going to be tender. And this bishop is now a bit stuck out on a limb with no retreat square. So b5 played by Magnus, good move, going for one of his pawn breaks. You don't want to take there, or d5 is critically weak. So we get bishop h3 from Levon. What's that all about? Well, he's trying to take away the retreat square of this bishop. So if you capture here, like Magnus does, and then take the b file immediately, well bang, you run into knight to h4. When I first saw this, I was thinking maybe knight e1, but knight h4, even more powerful, Two pieces now controlling this square, and that bishop is stuck. You're threatening to go f3, and you've got big problems when it retreats. So this is why Magnus now has to give up bishop for knight, pawn recaptures, but now look at this for a positional problem. This e-file is open, that's a backward pawn. We already talked about the problems if you play pawn to e6. So rook a b8 from Magnus, he's under pressure, he's got to go for counterplay down the b file. Rook e1 played, rook b7 adds defense to that 7th rank, also prepares to double the rooks, and now a truly great move from Levon. Because if you play a bit slowly, like with rook c3, you know, I was doing a bit of a clicking around, well then black can double or go queen a5. Black's just in time to generate counterplay. But Levon, he plays pawn to g4. Looks really horrible, blocking your own bishop, but it's just temporary because that pawn is coming to g5. And Magnus, as ever, astute to the opponent's plans. That's where these top guys are just so good, right? He goes king g8. A mysterious looking king move, but we'll see the point now. Because after g5, the knight gets kicked into here, and now it's got a retreat square to g7 where it can remaneuver to f5, possibly, if you can get the time to do that. And after bishop g4, threatening to just mangle this pawn structure, well, that's where the knight retreats. That's the reason for that sneaky king move. Awesome, you know, prophylactic chess from these top guys. f4 from Levon. So he's cranking up the pressure. He wants to rip open that king, make a horrible pawn structure for black. I mean, you know, if it ever gets to here and you capture, well, if the h-pawn recaptures, then there could be ideas of some attack down here, you know, long term, maybe. And if this pawn ever recaptures, well, then this square is really weak. And still this pawn's a problem. So these are the kind of threats in the air. So Magnus brings the rook to the b file. And here Levon, he doesn't play the most precise move. He plays the second top move. So the top move here was queen e3. Continuing the pressure on this pawn, and okay, game goes on. I won't keep going and going. Excuse me. But what Levon plays is king g2. Good prophylactic move, coming off the back rank, you know, anticipating some stuff like this later on. You can't do it immediately, but now Magnus, he just gets a moment to invade with rook b2. So we get rook c2 played, an exchange, queen recaptures, and now queen b7 preparing to invade the position, but it's not the most precise. Actually, the computer wanted to go f5 there, even though it looks a bit ugly, it was the top move. But after this one, well, here Levon can get some real serious pressure with rook to e3, but he doesn't find it. And now if you try and invade with the queens and get them off, well, this is actually a really dodgy endgame for black. That rook is invading, coming behind this pawn. I won't go deep on the line, you know, the lines are very, very long, but it's better for white. Sorry, did I say black? It's better for white, this endgame. So here we have Levon to move. Rook e3, his best move, waiting on the position, but he cracks on with pawn f5. Looks so logical, but this is where Magnus finds the only move to fight back against this pressure. What do you think he played in this position? Brilliant move, brilliant idea. And then after that, well, okay, the game goes on. You're going to soon see. So the move Magnus plays is queen to d7. You could also go queen c8. Not as precise, but the same concept. And the idea is you've now pinned this pawn. You can't take, or your bishop is dropping, with check. And so what do you now do? There's suddenly a threat for the knight to take here. It's supported by the pawn. You know, you're liquidating things. You're fighting back into the game. So Levon, he plays pawn to h4. And now Magnus crashes through on f5. He's just managing to unravel. I always remember Hikaru saying in this interview with, what's that guy's name? Lex Friedman or something like that. He interviews loads of people, and he interviewed Hikaru, and Hikaru said that Magnus is the most tenacious defender he ever came across. Like when they played each other 10, 12 years ago or whatever it was, in a secret match in Russia somewhere maybe, up in a hotel room, and Magnus just kept defending and defending and defending like no one else in the world. And this is what he does, right? He just springs back out of the box, and suddenly the pieces are liquidating here. pawn recaptures. Yes, this one drops, but Magnus, the endgame goat, he's seen that he's getting just enough counterplay here to technically make the game level. But I say technically because he's still hugely under pressure, as we'll see, and watch those clock times. So rook a6 played, going after this d pawn. Magnus chops here. The rook takes on d6, rook d4 comes behind this passer. Now it looks completely dead for black, you know, 2 pawns now running, as we'll see, but the c pawn is just enough of a distraction. So Magnus stops the immediate a5. We get d7, c3, the rook now has to come, a5 first, c2, now the rook has to come, stop black's pawn queening. We get this liquidation, and after rook a7, Levon holds onto the pawn and also threatens this one. So the king covers, pawn f4, rook d7 back, now rook c3, and Magnus gives these checks and comes behind the pawn. Optimal position. Levon comes back with a check and pawn a6. Now look at the clock times. It's like 9 minutes to 1 minute. Huge difference. But how is Levon going to make progress? Because Magnus now starts checking and then harassing this f-pawn. The king comes back. Now this kind of thing continues for a sequence of moves here, and then bang, king d3. Levon goes for it, gives this pawn, marches the king over to the queen side. This looks super dangerous, but king g6. Here comes Magnus's king pressuring this pawn. So the rook blocks the a file. You cannot swap rooks. This is going through too fast, making a queen. That's no good. So check back. The king goes, check, king b6. We keep checking, and now the rook comes in front of the pawn. And again, Magnus has seen that although the king can march in, the white king that is, he's now winning another pawn of whites. So when the king gets to here, he slides away, and yes, you can promote this pawn, but the problem is, after captures, rook captures, these 3 pawns supported by the king and this one so far away are enough to draw the game. So you can go f4 here, you know, there's different moves, I won't go all the way through the line, but these all can start running in combination. It's too much for this rook to cope with. Well, you can make a draw, but not a win. So coming back here, Levon goes rook c4, f4, rook c8. We don't change rooks. You cannot let white make a queen. So check, the rook blocks, the rook back, the rook back, the rook back, check, check. And this is how the game actually finished. The players made a draw, 3-fold repetition. So I thought that was a fantastic fight. Levon really turned the screw, but Magnus found that only concept to find the draw. What an exceptional, tenacious defender. If you enjoyed this one and want to see another epic game, do check out the video on screen. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.